On this episode of China Uncensored, this is not who you think it is. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. So let's play a little game, shall we? Who do you think this is? If you said Michael Jordan, you'd be wrong. That's Qiaodan. Rather, it's the logo used by a Chinese sportswear brand called Qiaodan Sports. That has absolutely nothing to do with Michael Jordan, except for a couple of lawsuits. You see, Michael Jordan has been a superstar in China since the 1980s. In Chinese, they transliterate his name as Qiaodan. But just because a Chinese company is using a silhouette of a man playing basketball, selling jerseys with the number 23, and using a Chinese name that's been associated with Michael Jordan for 3 decades, doesn't mean there's any kind of trademark infringement going on. Michael Jordan, however, disagrees. In 2012, he filed a lawsuit against Qiaodan Sports for infringing on his personal Air Jordan brand, which is a division of Nike. This is clearly unfair, because Qiaodan Sports is a big, respectable company with more than 5,700 outlets across China and $276 million in revenue that year. Fortunately, Qiaodan had a rock-solid legal defense. First, Michael Jordan's name is clearly Michael Jordan, not Qiaodan. Second, there are Chinese people named Qiaodan, 4,600 to be exact. So I mean, that could totally be any one of those famous basketball-playing Chinese men named Qiaodan. And third, Michael Jordan doesn't even live in China, so where does he get off bringing a case against a Chinese company? The court obviously ruled in favor of Qiaodan. And then Qiaodan countersued Michael Jordan for business damages. They said his lawsuit prevented them from doing an IPO in 2013. They accused Michael Jordan of having ulterior motives, saying this no longer has anything to do with fairness or justice. It has become ugly commercial tactics. Anyway, after losing the first lawsuit, Michael Jordan appealed to the Beijing Municipal High People's Court, but they weren't impressed with his ugly commercial tactics either. In June 2015, they ruled against him too. The court said in their verdict that the image of the disputed trademark is a human body in a shadowy design which does not clearly reflect the major appearances of the figure. It is hard for the relevant public to recognize the image as Michael Jordan. Now, while I completely agree with this ruling, I decided to show this image to the relevant public just in case.
Who is this?
Michael Jordan. I mean, I'm not into basketball much anymore, but I'll say Michael Jordan. First thing come to my mind.
I look like Jordan to me.
It's Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
When you see this picture,
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, of course.
23.
Michael Jordan.
See, this just proves the ignorance of the American public and Europeans, also that visitor from China. But more than just having a flimsy legal argument, Michael Jordan failed to understand China's most basic legal principle. A Chinese court will almost never rule in favor of a Western company against a Chinese one. And if you think this whole thing is crazy, that it's proof China has no rule of law and no respect for trademarks, you'd actually be wrong. Everything Qiaodan did is technically legal in China. This might be a hard concept for an American audience to understand. The US has a first-to-use trademark system. That means the first one to use a trademark gets the rights to that trademark. But China has a first-to-file system, which means whoever files for a trademark first owns the rights. And since Qiaodan Sports filed first, they own it. That's the law. Many other countries like France and Germany also have first-to-file systems. But China is unique in that it's become a hotbed of bad faith trademark squatters. People or companies that register a trademark in hopes of forcing a foreign company to pay them for it later. Some of these squatters register hundreds of trademarks. When Apple tried to use the name iPad in China, they found it had already been trademarked by ProView Technology in Shenzhen. During the dispute, ProView asked Chinese customs to block all shipments of Apple iPads in and out of China. Apple eventually paid $60 million to settle the case. So, a good rule of thumb, register your trademarks in China as soon as possible. Of course, even if you get the trademark, that still might not stop this from happening. So what do you think about China's trademark laws? And do you agree that this silhouette could totally be anyone? Leave your comments below and take a moment to subscribe to this channel if for some crazy reason you haven't already. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time. So, are you as excited as I am for the Winter Olympics 7 years from now? Yes, there's nothing I love more than skiing. With guns! And who better to host the 2022 Winter Games than China? Southpaw may have a cliche plot,
I'll give you my everything,
but it's the first American movie to be entirely financed by a Chinese company.